Hey, it's JankyJolteon. My name is Bree, and I wanted to get a series of reactions out for Ren's Tales because Starry Night is going to be released in 2 more days. I've been really excited about Starry Night because it's my favorite piece of artwork, and my favorite musician is going to probably do something really cool with that. So while Ashley's seen all the tales along with me, we were going to react to it together, but she is out of commission due to a foot surgery and complications with a blood clot. She's doing okay now, but she could use your good vibes. In the meantime, I decided to get Diana in here, and I had her watch all of the tales with me. The goal was I was going to do a time-lapse of her watching the entire bit of tales in a speed run, and then we were just going to attach that to the beginning of the Starry Night reaction, but she made so many good discussion points. The whole video actually took 2 hours, and I couldn't let that go to waste. So I picked out the highlights just to make a one whole video about the tales up until Starry Night. So here we go with me initiating Diana into the book club officially. Starting with Prologue, the first song on the tale of Jenny and Screech.
It was a cheerless night in London. It's always like that after a storm. The rain ceased fire on its siege on the capital and rolled like teardrops down its walls. It's as though the city was sobbing, like this concrete kingdom weeps. For never was there a story more tragic than the tale of Jenny and Screech.
Very Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, that's kind of the thing that kind of got me into the tales in the first place, is just very bardic, kind of poetic Edgar Allan Poe vibe. One thing I really like about this is, as there's the contrast in the 2 characters, hers is all slow and gentle, and his is a little more upbeat and chaotic.
Okay, so I was totally expecting it to be a love story between the two. That
Oh, you're about
was
to be
not.
terribly disappointed if that's what you were hoping for.
And one thing I noticed too is there was a lot of really colorful graffiti on Jenny's part. I don't know if it was intentional. It could have been because he chooses his locations very specifically. But there was a lot of vibrant, colorful graffiti during Jenny's parts, and then during Screech's parts, it was very plain.
Yeah.
Like, his part was a little bit shorter, but there was a lot of plainness. And then what I really noticed too was when it was a mix of those, there was a lot of graffiti, but the road was all, like, the background was all eroded. Like, when Screech is threatening her, there's this graffiti, but you can't tell because the bricks itself have been, like, it almost looks like they got doused with acid rain, honestly, because it was all broken down.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I like that. I never noticed that before.
Yeah. And I'm imagining this is like
a flickering light in high ren. Like, it just adds a little more dramatic effect to it.
Yeah, like you could see when they were going back and forth. Like, Jenny's stuff is very colorful on both sides, and then his is very plain.
Yeah. Right, you ready for the next one? This is another little mini one from the album called Run Screech Run. And this is Screech's tale.
Just going on to the back, I like the song too. It's it's a slower version this is Screech's tone, but I like how it's a slower, more somber one now too. Just because I think it kind of alludes to the idea that this is going to be like the downfall for him. I'm predicting that things aren't going to go well for Screech, but I like the idea that in the other one, it just seemed kind of business as usual for Screech, and somehow this is the moment that's going to signify things drastically and negatively changing, probably before things it'll be the downfall that helps him get onto a better path potentially, but that's not usually what happens. And then I think it was very intentional that when he because Ren was walking, and when he stopped, up in the corner, you'll see there's this very beautiful, tree of life picture with somebody beneath it doing a yoga pose. That's been kind of ruined by this just baseline white graffiti over it. Mm-hmm. And I think that was very intentional, the symbolism too. Jenny potentially had, just this life, this nice, calm, we don't know a whole lot about her, but we're presuming that she was just an innocent person just trying to walk home, down on her luck and stuff. And it seemed very much like it was her, the tree of life part could have been her. And then the graffiti over it was how that beautiful picture was ruined by this graffiti. And the graffiti, was typical kind of gang-looking graffiti. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the idea of that's who Screech is. Not necessarily because that's who he is, but because that's the life that he's experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I think you're onto something. The camera work is just some of my favorite in this. Just what they do for dramatic effect. They're spiraling around. Yeah. And the Screech's character, Screech is spiraling after what he did. Yeah. Has plan A to go get help and...
Yeah. And also, to continue with that, there's this very beautiful, colorful graffiti in the background that's being overseeded by... It looks like this rainbow and stuff was intentional graffiti meant to beautify the neighborhood, and it was somebody saw fit to ruin that beauty by putting this other graffiti on top of it. This typical kind of ugly, just white, weird words that you can't even really read. And I think that's very intentional to this area. It was, art and graffiti can be this beautiful, intentional thing for bringing community together. And then it was ruined by this, oftentimes gang graffiti is just like, I'm here and I'm big and I'm tough.
Right.
When it could be something that's beautiful. So I like that line too, that Screech was never one to run. I think that's his perspective, because ironically the very beginning of the story was him running. Mm-hmm. Him trying to find somewhere to hide. Him, obviously this is the first time that he's killed somebody, it sounds like, because of his reaction to it, which is a little expected, a little bit dark considering he's 14. Mm-hmm. And I was going to mention the previous one too, I like how he said he grew. I think that the narration is Screech's perspective versus societal perspective, because, he said he grew up to be a devil. He's 14, he's not grown up. Mm-hmm. He's barely a he's barely a teenager. I would barely call him a teenager. Mm-hmm. So I like that kind of, I think the narration of this is from his perspective, and I think it's something that the audience is supposed to notice, the dissonance as well. Because he did run. He was trying to avoid consequences, which is very much a 14-year-old thing to do. I like this kind of dichotomy of what's actually happening and what he thinks. He thinks he's this big bad guy. He thinks that he's one with the devil. He thinks that he's, this grown man who's grown up on the streets. No, you're a 14-year-old who's unfortunately in a very bad situation for probably, a lot of different reasons. His choices are his own, but it's also probably influenced by society. So I like that, he's like, he's never one to run from a fight. Dude, you just ran.
Right.
You just ran. You're not one to run from a fight you think you can win. But you're one to run from consequences, which is a very 14-year-old mindset of, I'm the biggest and toughest thing when he's freaking out.
Yeah.
With no time to hesitate, he fired 4 bullets at Screech's chest.
That's clever. The cinematography is amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
I like the lighting too. This very, it's almost narrow pinpoint, which is something that's with anxiety. Mm-hmm. It's a representation of his panic and stuff. It was better lit. It was better lit. There was better lighting in Jenny's tale than there is in this one. And this one's more chaotic. This one's more these hues and stuff. And I think that's representative of the anxiety that, Screech was feeling, and then his very cornered animal reaction. And I like that he immediately jumps to the conclusion that they already know that he did everything, which they potentially didn't. It's a 14-year-old running around erratically in the middle of the night. Of course the police are going to be like, hey, bud, what's up?
Right.
And he immediately went to potential suicide by cop because that's the only way he still has control of it. And I like the idea that he thinks he owns the streets. Again, that's a very 14-year-old mindset. Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder if, like, it's going to reveal that he's part of a gang and that mindset comes from the gang. Because in jail, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll identify the person who's, like, easy to manipulate, and they play him up this way to have them cause all the problems. Like, the older, more mature people manipulate the younger ones into doing this stuff to avoid consequences, still get the things they want. And they have this mindset of, I'm the biggest, baddest, toughest person. And everybody's saying that, but they're laughing behind their backs about it, which adds additional tragedy to this kid. I mean, his decisions are his own, but also he's being played up by his environment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that the shots using the guitar was very, very clever. I liked that.
Yes, I love that. I also want to point out for a video you haven't seen yet, it's his song Slaughterhouse. He has this little rabbit logo that's got like 4 shots to it. And I suspect this is going to play into his tales at some point because there's a lot of specific references.
Story, it ends right at the start. Young Screech and poor Jenny lying 1 street apart.
Love story enough for you? It's got a Romeo and Juliet vibes, but not quite, but you know, right next to each other. Yeah. And next is Screech's Tales Instagram stories. He posted these as a series of stories on his Facebook and Instagram and other platforms, and it just kind of gives a little bit more detail into Screech's life.
Post-mortem, which is always more tragic.
Yes.
Yo everybody, I just got back from Birmingham. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came. I'm fucking knackered. It was such a sick weekend.
Smile even though it's breaking.
Can you imagine stealing someone's phone and just repetitively posting Facebook stories with it?
I imagine first we're like, are you Ren? You okay? Hey.
Yeah, actually, what happened was, so Ren basically just did like this performative art with this, and he gave zero context to his fans. He was talking on one of his live streams that he actually lost a lot of followers thinking his account got hacked or something. But it was all just to play into his whole series.
Creative risk.
Yeah, but you really didn't know until like literally a few days later. So a lot of people were
Everybody
confused.
who follows it in real time was like, what the heck?
Right.
We're not going to confuse as some thief.
Exactly.
Filming it, they're being more performative, so they're not being genuine with each other either. And she probably, she's 14 too.
She's like, get the camera out of my face.
Yeah, she's not feeling the most secure either about it. Like, she doesn't want to be filmed, and he's just trying to show her off, and she may not enjoy that either.
What are you doing?
A crime.
I hate pickles. Imagine poor Ren being like, no, it's for a video. Hopefully he preemptively asks, like, hey, I'm going to be doing a video where I'm pretending to be a 14-year-old stealing from you.
Actually, the funniest thing about that is in one of his videos, a security guard was coming after his team, and he actually, on renmakesmerch.com, he made a little bobblehead of the angry security guard, and there's a video of it I'll have to show you.
The pain, it takes control.
But to me, it seems like maybe he's progressively getting more drunk throughout the night, and he's getting more annoying the more drunk he gets.
It could be that too, and it's very much he's seeking positive reinforcement for negative behaviors, and if he would just chill, they'd probably be better with. Because he at some point he was the kind of person they wanted to be friends with, but it's starting to become the idea that they're not. I also think that, your theory you were saying, was it that she was just done with him? I think that by the end of these, because you said they're still coming out, I think by the end of this, they're going to stop being friends with him. I think, what are the chances that Patrick, who potentially is also 14 wasn't home at like 3 a.m.
Right.
Like, I think it was he was done with him and didn't want to answer the door. So it wasn't that Patrick wasn't home, it was he was not answering the door. And the same with the girlfriend. I think that she wasn't busy, she just was too busy for him. Like, she didn't want to be around him.
Makes sense.
And it's crazy too, because they're, the actors clearly aren't 14, but you have the suspension of disbelief because the way they're acting, like their body language and stuff is very 14.
Mm-hmm.
I like their shared look too, because it implies that they've had this conversation before. Like, hey, do you know what's going on with Screech? He's like, that shared look was, see, this is what I was talking about. He's becoming more difficult to be around. Mm-hmm. And his behavior got worse after they shared the look too. So I think that even he notices, he feels like he's being...
Now he's got to show off a little more.
Yeah, he's reacting counterintuitively to it. He sees that they're pulling away, and instead of being able to just chill and bring it down, he's going to double down in his behavior.
Hey, Patrick. Don't you, little Patrick? You look so nice on this camera. You look so nice on this lighting.
And that little smile, I like that too. I think that really talks about why they stick with him. Because I think, he was being very irritating, but there's parts of the time that are endearing to them. Like, that smile wasn't an annoyed smile. That was, he must have done something off camera that was, like, fun and cute, reminded them of why they like him. Mm-hmm. And there's less people too now. It's just him and Patrick. So I'm thinking maybe because Patrick can only bring attention to him now, there's nobody else. Like, it seems like a lot of his behavior was to get the attention centered on himself. Mm-hmm. Like, when there's multiple people, he acts worse because he wants everyone paying attention to him. And if they pay attention to anybody else, it causes worse behaviors because he's 14, he's struggling with that. He's probably very insecure, and he needs that constant reassurance that everybody else wants to be around him. Mm-hmm. I also like how that's also so 14-year-old. They started off wearing masks to steal the phone, and now they're showing their faces constantly. Mm-hmm. I think that part of the reason that he wanted, he was mad at them too, was once everybody went home, he has to go home too. And it doesn't seem like it's a very good home life. I think the implication of him spitting out blood was that his dad hit him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
And then the sniffling, I don't know if that's because, it seems like the sniffling was, my first thought was maybe he did some kind of substance under his nose, but I think more it was... Now he's by himself. He's trying not to be scared because he can't be, but he's 14 alone at night. Mm-hmm. So he's both scared of being out in the dark, but he's also scared about going home to his dad. So I think the sniffling was all the bravado falling away.
For never was there a story more tragic than the tale of Jenny and Screech. Any units in the area, please could you respond? I was assaulted by a minor. I had no choice. I drew my gun. We have a wounded Caucasian male with 4 bullet wounds down. Please send an ambulance and backup here. Over and now.
And next on the list is Violet's Tale. This one came out a little bit after the other two, but ties right into them. Mm-hmm. Are you ready for the biggest plot twist?
Violet, why are you lying to me, Violet? She stays silent, things turn violent. That's the sound of his fists when they fall like a crashing pilot. Hit like hailstones, one to the collarbone, full force, full blown, blood's black bone, crack, knick, knack, paddywhack, one to the jaw when the tooth spat, detached fist connects and disconnects a bone. A quick deflect to misdirect the blow, but nonetheless his punches met her throat. Such a mess he's left her bruised and broke. Violet, why you always so silent, Violet? Why you such a little liar, Violet? Do you think I want to do this, Violet? In character, she stays silent. Well, say something, Violet. Silence. Fucking say something.
I like that there's no music at this point, too.
I'm in London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington just lost the fight to stay alive. A tragedy or a miracle. It happened on these very streets. Two twins aligned side by side.
They're gonna be siblings. Really makes the whole love story thing wrong.
A girl named Jenny and a boy named Screech.
You called it. One central theme I noticed to all of the tales is it seems to highlight human tragedy. Just, people being a product of their life and just how that goes without trying to step outside of that.
Yeah, and I like, it's kind of like with BoJack Horseman, where it's an explanation, but it's not an excuse.
Right.
Like, they're not saying, oh, this poor boy, he had no choice but to stab that lady. Mm-hmm. But, they're giving context to the choice that he's made. They're not giving, oh my goodness.
They're not justifying it, but they're letting you see it through his eyes, that it wasn't just, a simple random act of violence. It was a build-up of his life and his reactions and the way he handles stress, and it just turned into a dumpster fire because he wasn't given better opportunities. But that's also something he could have sought for himself. Yeah.
And I like the idea that they both were born and died in violence.
Mm-hmm. One street apart.
Yeah. And how, Jenny didn't talk a single time her entire story. So she had her mother's silence, and her brother had her father's rage.
I can see that.
Which is kind of a cool parallel, too.
Yeah, definitely. Alright, and the newest iteration of the tales starts with Vincent's tale, Sunflowers. It is the prologue for the upcoming tales. This is the first in the series of the one that the newest one drops in 2 days, Starry Night. Starry Night's the one I'm super excited about, but this entire series has a highlight on Vincent van Gogh's work. So if you know anything about his story, you can see a lot of the tie-ins there, even a lot of the similarities to Ren's own life. Almost like Ren is the alternate dimension where medical care actually helped the artist that was struggling because of his health.
Yeah.
Also, their birthdays are like 1 day apart, which I think is kind of interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah. But, so the first one's Sunflowers, and I think this is my favorite so far.
Tragic scenes last night in London. A 14-year-old girl was found dead from a fatal stab wound. Her attacker, a 14-year-old boy, is in critical condition after a violent altercation with a police officer.
I do want to note, right here it says he is in critical condition. In the Spotify version of this song, it does say that he's dead. Ren has specifically confirmed that he is dead.
River reporters on the ground for more.
Oh, such a beautiful shade. The sunflowers will when the skies do not rain. It's a story I'm sure we all know. It's a moment of madness inside of the woes we are.
Clearly Vincent van Gogh.
I'm gonna rewind because that's just my favorite.
It's me. War rains down, blindingly loud, never surrender.
Sunflowers is one of his famous paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the album cover for all of this, which I'll show you in a bit, is basically a painting they did just like that. Also, that little ghost guy right there, he has popped up a few times throughout this with no explanation, so
Well,
I kind of like to keep note on him, maybe he's relevant.
Yeah, I was about to say, it looks like he's staring in horror at the sunflowers on fire.
What a terrible scene.
On the TV is that bunny I was telling you about that was shot 4 times. Ren's named it Johnson. It's a logo on his slaughterhouse thing, and that's all we know about it.
Yeah.
But it does keep popping up, so maybe it's something relevant.
I was thinking that that was the same.
As we all fall down in London town, shaky ground.
I like the play on London bridges falling down as well.
I kind of like the monotony as they cycle through this. Kind of reminds me of that SpongeBob episode with Squidward being disappointed with his
Squidville.
life.
Yeah.
That just kind of same thing over and over, minor details changed, but it really highlights the dissatisfaction with the monotone. Him and Vincent beatboxing in prison. And next is the series of shorts he released just before his other Vincent's Tales, for a little bit more context.
Sarah, I'm warning you.
That's it! Enough! That's fine, Sarah. Just text when you get there safe, yeah?
Yeah, I think another point is like, you know, his kid looks, she's probably the same age as the one who was shot, is probably what he's drunkenly going off about. Obviously being way more abrasive than necessary.
Yeah, it's like
PTSD,
he's not processing the fact that 2 kids were killed the same night, one by him and one by the other thing.
And he's taking it out on his family now.
Yeah. I was almost thinking that this was going to be the guy's girlfriend, but she has different hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the fallacy in his thinking there because, you know, he's saying everybody's waiting for me to pull it together. Everybody's waiting for you to process and overcome. Mm-hmm. Like his fixation on getting back to normal is oftentimes a crisis and grief response. You don't want to process it. You just want to compartmentalize it and forget it.
You want it over with, but you can't really compartmentalize and push it through. You have to actually deal with it to get over it.
You have to actually process it, and he's not wanting to do that. He's thinking, if I just bury myself in normalcy, everything will be normal. He's not wanting to acknowledge that everything has changed.
I didn't want this. Didn't ask for any of it, and I don't deserve it. I just want to go back to how I was before.
So I really like the line he said. If people have seen the previous one I was on, it's very much that radical acceptance too. I didn't want this, so I want it to go back to where it was before. Mm-hmm. It's not fair that it happened. And that's part of what you need with radical acceptance. It's okay to say, yeah, I didn't want this. It's not fair that it happened. But you also have to take the next step and say, but it did happen, so where do we go from now? But he's struggling with that part of it. He's struggling with, this did happen. He's fixated on, I want things to be as if this didn't happen. And that's just a natural response that we have when things are out of our control. We want to feel like we're in control, and we don't. We want to fantasize that we do have control. Mm-hmm. So he wants to think, I can just return to my life and have control when he doesn't have control.
Okay, and next is Vincent's Tale Self-Portrait. Yeah, still naming them after Vincent van Gogh works.
It's weird that we're starting at the end of his drinking, but I mean,
Just like in Screech's Tale, our story begins right at the end.
Yeah.
I like the continuation. Okay, so I love how they put Vincent van Gogh in a tracksuit. Like, it's just like they're really modernizing him.
What another aspect of tragedy when it comes to Van Gogh stuff, or Van Gogh, I think is how it's
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh is how it's actually pronounced. Yeah. Something else
Dutch.
that adds extra tragedy to his process too is the way that people romanticize his illness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're like, oh, he was such a inventive artist that he ate yellow paint and he cut off his ear. No, he did that because he had untreated mental illness and depression. It was a form of self-harm. Mm-hmm. And most of his work was actually done while in recovery. It wasn't, oh, this is the expression of a tortured artist. No, this was a person in recovery contextualizing the pain that he was dealing with.
Right. Like, and some of his most famous works, like Starry Night and The Lilacs, were done in the asylum after he cut his ear off.
Yeah, and I really like that this is, it's a second travesty done to him that, they're putting him as, a mentally ill artist versus an artist who was dealing with mental illness. They're prioritizing the mental illness when it was really just an aspect of suffering he dealt with, and they're trying to say, oh, the artist because of this. No, he was an artist who was able to overcome the moments of despair and tragedy in order to make his art. And imagine how much more talented and beautiful and everything he would have had if he had the treatments that he could have.
Right. And then also, as time goes on, it's theorized that he might have, not so much been mentally sick, but physically sick, and it was representing as psychiatric symptoms. Very similar like how Lyme worked for Ren, instead of the root cause of the issue being treated. And, in the end, his last words were, "The sadness will never end." And, when Ren was sick, he was like, I don't know how long I could do this like this, until there was a little bit of hope that there was something deeper going on, so he kept looking. But Vincent didn't really have that kind of benefit in his time. He couldn't have done that kind of research and effort that Ren was able to that put him on a different path.
Yeah, and that's a difficulty we have now too, is that we try to separate mental health and physical health when they're aspects that impact the body.
Feed into each other, but when you don't address the correct root issue, you're not really fixing the problem.
Yeah, UTI can cause psychosis, and if you just write somebody off as psychotic and give them antipsychotics without treating the UTI, they're never going to get better. It's just like, they try to say, oh, well, mental illness is a mental illness. Yeah, well, it's an illness that impacts the mind more than anything else. Just like diabetes is an illness that impacts your insulin.
Come on, let's have it, you miserable prick. I will do what I want.
I like Vincent's actor. He's just like, you're gonna steal my guitar and be mean to me? Come on, dude.
What do you want about, guy?
Just the simple, I love it. I love the camera work in here. Like, it makes you dizzy like you're drinking.
Yeah, and it almost seems like it's trying to overcompensate. He leans one way, the camera leans the other. It's trying to keep him straight and in focus.
He didn't like that.
Nope. I like kind of the idea, too, that this angry character seems very much because it's all connected to Screech. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name.
Screech.
Yeah.
Screech's name is James, but they call him Screech.
Yeah, but this could very much be who Screech would have been if he grew up, because it's the exact same So he has the exact same attitude and behavior as Screech does.
Yeah, like a product of his environment, but not stepping outside of it to make it better.
Yeah, but also very bitter and angry, and it almost seems less sympathetic for him because the implication is this person's an adult. He's old enough to buy a drink, and he's, like, he's the same bitter, angry person Screech was, and it's a little bit less sympathetic because he's older, and the expectation is at this point he would have worked through these things. Screech was 14 with no resources, and even if this guy is, 40 with no resources, he's had 40 years to try and get this together. Mm-hmm. And I like, too, how, his behavior has different consequences. The first guy just looked at him in befuddlement, the second one kind of cussed him out, the third one's like, nah, this isn't passing. This isn't sliding. He's following him.
Consequences of his actions now.
Yeah.
He's gotten away with it 2 times in a row, but maybe not the 3rd time.
Yeah.
I like how they go back and forth. Like, it goes back to Ren's character to narrator. To character to narrator.
Yeah.
I really like that contrast, especially since we don't know who every character involved is at this point or their connections to each other.
Yeah, and you're not... the way that they're showing this, we're not sure if this is supposed to be Vincent, the drunk guy, the drunk guitar thief, or if the one who literally looks like Vincent Van Gogh was supposed to be. The continued lack of accountability too, because everybody else is the prick when they're just living their lives, and he's the dude who's stealing guitars and stealing cigarettes and swearing at women after bumping into them. But it's everybody else.
Right.
He's not the victim.
And he could have just been arrested for drunk and disorderly at this point. He didn't have to stab the dude with the glass bottle.
Yes.
Like, that just complicated this.
Richard was an officer who stood at 6'3". Was his first day back at work after a time of absent leave.
And next we have Vincent's Tale, The Bedroom.
There's some of Vincent's portraits, too.
Anger. Have you ever felt anger with nowhere?
That picture right there is the one I was talking about.
Anger. Have you...
It's the only one that Vincent Van Gogh didn't do, and just a figure standing outside of what looks like the room he's in.
Yeah.
We started out with intentions and we ended up like slaves. Drink to kill the tension, but the drinks cost your wage. What helps you is what kills you when you're living too decay.
It's kind of like a central theme in all of the other tales. They just keep trying to move on with, I didn't deserve this, and I'm just going to keep repeating the patterns because I didn't do anything wrong, so I shouldn't have to change anything. But nothing's going to change until they do it, but until they come to that conclusion, they're just living to decay.
Yeah, and I love the idea that he's just so average too, because I think that impacts it too. I think that's hard because he hasn't had the worst life, but he hasn't had the best life either. Like the implication is, he was born to a mother who was struggling with a substance abuse habit, and he grew up in poverty. But like the biggest thing he seems frustrated about is the monotony of his life. But his life seems secure, safe, and stable as far as a life can go. He's got debt collectors, but he's got a stable job. He's got stable transportation, these things. So it does, I think, fill into that kind of victim complex that Vincent seems to have. I also really like the, he just drinks to distract, but it costs all his money. It reminds me of that song Fine Line. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It was, it's from the Stupendium. It was based off of a video game. Honestly, have you not read the colony policy that defines you as company property? Is like the big line people know on TikTok. But like one of the lines is, so earn what you can and then give it right back at the bar, and you'll be grateful for seats at the table, though it dips at one end and the bench is unstable. Mm-hmm. And it's like this great line, and I love it because it's the idea, that they work literally just to survive, and any extra they have is spent immediately on comfort for the monotony and dissatisfaction of their own life. I knew there was something under there.
When the spirit that's inside of him sinks in his teeth.
I think that's a clever play too, because spirits is another word for alcohol.
There he goes with those rhyme schemes again, kind of matching at the beginning and end. I'm gonna go back a little because I love that.
The months turn over, May to October. More days pissed than the days he spent sober. Skin looks older, demeanor gets colder. Sledgehammer swing to that chip on your shoulder. A cold prison deep in alcoholism. 40% proof, no juice. Inhibition get loose by decision and taboos when we're living for the booze. Never mind, just a victim of society, the one that serves you alcohol and sells you your sobriety.
It's like what you were talking about earlier.
One that sells you sex as it pedestals virginity, the one where we elect these lying pests with God ability.
The rhyme schemes here are just kind of insane. I love it.
The model troubled sleep takes a time of absently hitting the bottle to soften the blow in the walls of yourself, and there's nowhere to go when it's friends on the force they don't call, they don't show. Go to therapy regularly, seem to plateau when his popo went loco and woe so low that his mojo no mono rebound no yo-yo, and so the time it moves slow.
The idea too that they're trying to find, like, it ties back into that lack of accountability, that need for control. Everything seems to fall back on radical acceptance. That might just be because that's what I'm looking for, because it's my favorite therapeutic tool. But he's trying to find meaning in it. And there is, like, the ironic part is there's no meaning in this process. The guy, Screech had no idea that was his sister. He didn't. That Jenny had no idea that she was killed by her brother. It was a circumstance. It's like this serendipitous circumstance. But we want to ascribe meaning to things. We want to be able to recognize patterns because it all feeds into the illusion of control. If there was a reason for it, if there was a motive for it, if it was anything less than senseless, even if there was a horrible motive. Maybe he killed his sister because she had a better home. Maybe he hunted her.
Head around that kind of story, though, not just terrible things happen for no reason. It's harder to accept that.
Also, if there was a reason, then there's a method to avoid it in the future. All of what we do when we
How do you avoid this kind of tragedy?
You don't.
Psychic powers?
Yeah, it's a thing that happened, but if he could find out why it happened, he could prevent it in the future, because he's still stuck in the idea of, I wish I hadn't had to shoot this kid. I wish this kid hadn't killed another 14-year-old. And if I understand why he did this, I can stop it in the future. But there was the reason, the reality is it's a thing that happened. And there isn't really any way to stop it. I mean, there is better education, better reform, safety, control, things for society that we're very, very far away from having. But even in a perfect society where everybody has an idyllic life, where they have support and safety and security, it's still something that could happen because it's the randomness of human nature. And he can't accept that. He'd rather it be somebody's fault, even if it's his fault, than no fault. Because no fault means it could happen again. But if it's somebody's fault, if you know whose fault it is, and if you know how to stop it in the future, it'll never happen again. And there's no guarantee that will happen.
Right.
Stage 4 is depression, that's a lesson taught in grief. Depression, demonic like possession, that feeds upon this spark for life. No water is refreshing, no sun.
Okay, another thing I like about this part is he makes a song called Depression, and he's hitting a few of the same notes and the same tone of voice in it that he does there. I mean, like, he says the word depression a lot, but there's not really any lyrics in common otherwise, but it drags straight back to that song.
Sunlight brings him warmth, no sleep will ever bring resting. His guilt and doubt are oh so loud, the silence sounds so deafening. Depression, the numbing of expression, the negative obsession, ruminating in oppression. Stressing is a lesson when your mind begins reflecting. When it gets colder, whatever, it's only weather. Rain feeds the crops, let them grow, think clever. I'm so fucking proud of you, Richie, my boy.
I really like, too, how all the members of this, not so much Jenny, we don't get a whole lot of background with Jenny or Violet, but all of these actors in this story all have a very similar storyline that have been changed by certain things. All three of them went through some kind of trauma that resulted in substance use and erratic and dangerous behaviors. Richie is the only one who got out of it successfully, and part of that commentary is because, one, he had friends who would call him out on it. We didn't see any friends for Vincent, unfortunately, and that might be part of it. And we saw with Screech, his friends were annoyed by his behavior but never called him out. They enabled it to a certain degree. Not to place blame on them, they're all 14. Obviously, it's none of their faults that way, but his behavior was erratic, it was violent. You could tell people were nervous, concerned, and annoyed by it, but nobody called him out on it. Nobody held him accountable. But for Richie, his boss/friend, I'm blanking on his name now, but the guy Mark. Mark actually was a friend to him. Mark actually did do, it didn't seem like a good thing for Richie, but he held him accountable. These behaviors are inappropriate. Same with his wife. These behaviors are inappropriate. We are not going to tolerate them. You need to affect change. And it's not something that Screech got. It's not something that Vincent got, because neither of them had those supports. We also see that he gets therapy. He gets called out. He gets held accountable. And he has therapy in which he's not told, hey, let's numb this and make it better. He's told, you will never be who you were before, so let's try to get you to a point where you can still have a fulfilling life. And I think that's really important. That's the parallel between these characters. All three characters had similar things going on. It was different traumas, different struggles, but the only difference is the reason that Richie got out of it is he had the supports, the resources, and the accountability required to recover. The other two could have very much been like Richie. They could have had different paths if they had the resources for it. And that's not to say somebody without any of those resources can make it out as well, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot more difficult to do that. He had people in his life who cared about him enough not only to support him, which Screech kind of had, but to hold him accountable as well, which Screech did.
It's your first day at work, big man. Hold that head up high, my friend. Come on. We're all proud of you, Richie. I hope you get out there and smash it. I mean, what could go wrong?
Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Ren Makes Music and JankyJolteon. We will see you soon with our reaction to Starry Night.